So last night I was watching an old movie, early 2000 romantic story. And even then in that movie with the landline phone and everything, the girl said, "Oh, it's getting overwhelming with the mails and those other things. I feel nostalgic for when it used to only be letters." And it really got me thinking of how at every stage of technology growth, many things have gotten more and more overwhelming. And now, listen, I love technology because I get to talk to you from wherever you are in the US and Canada, from an island, from a mountain. And I feel so deeply blessed that I get to have this technology today, to have this career where I get to advise women on their growth, on their full expression, finding their voice, growing a business and a brand that's aligned with who they are. However, there is a fine line between using technology and being basically drowning in technology, drowning in input, drowning in information, drowning in noise, strategy, blah, blah, blah. And yesterday, before I fell asleep, I got this like vision of wait, what if I'm having like a low dopamine summer? Because in many ways, in the last week, that's what I've been experiencing, an intentional return to boredom, an intentional return to not doing so many exciting things. And I want to talk to you about what that means to me, why I'm choosing a low dopamine summer, and what that implies in my day to day, but also why I believe boredom is one of the greatest things we can gift ourselves as creatives. If you're someone that's been online for many years, maybe you run your own business, you have your brand, and you've been scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you're a little tired of the noise, tired of people, tired of how saturated everything can feel. It's an illusion. We'll talk about this. This video will bring you a lot of insights and comfort into doing things a little bit differently. The way I lead my business is mostly the feminine way now because I truly love the idea of not seeing women exhausted and drained doing all of the things, but rather just empowering creators to actually build a business that is supporting a slow, intentional, offline life. And now I cannot help but think about all these early trends, minimalism and slow living and intentional living, and then the wellness trends. And I'm not talking about a trend here. I'm genuinely talking about the pure act of just being a human being, living their day to day with presence and fulfillment and purpose. Now, for me, at this stage in my business, I've been online for now 10 years almost. And there's been so many learning curves, but at this stage, I'm really intentionally appreciating stepping away from everything to give my mind space to actually understand what is my choice and what is habit, what is nourishing my creativity and what is draining, and how can I lead my day so that business and my life are dancing with one another and there's space for both, but it doesn't feel all consuming. I was listening to a podcast today and I think they had calculated how many hours it would take in a day to do all of the things we are told to do, right? And it would take basically forever to do all of the right things. And that's why I don't believe in trends or following even routines. I don't really have a routine. I believe in finding our own harmony and paying attention to the kind of life and pace we choose to live. And the privilege we have as online creators, as entrepreneurs, is that we set the pace. You might not agree. You might feel as though you don't have a choice to keep pushing, to keep forcing, to keep posting, but you set the pace. Even if it doesn't feel like it, it is fully up to you how fast you create, how fast you put your content out, how fast you live your life, how fast you do the dishes, how fast you dress up in the morning. And the nostalgic feeling I felt yesterday when I was watching this movie also came with a broader decision to intentionally have a boring summer, have a low dopamine summer, have low dopamine days. Because I don't want to be hijacked on stimulation, constantly, feeling entertained. In fact, I think entertainment has gone too far in how much it is weaved into our day. Looking back at my childhood, which I had such a privilege to grow up in Canada, in, yards and neighborhood, there was a river nearby. And I remember the beauty of intentional entertainment. We would go to the video store to browse through the alleys to pick up a movie for the night. We would go and intentionally buy snacks for a movie night. We would gather friends to watch the stars and have a fire outside. You know, just a moment to share stories, swim in the pool, be outdoors, play. And yeah, I was watching TV and I have good memories of watching TV as a kid, but mostly a lot of the things were really slow. You were waiting for your friends to call in the morning. You were waiting for things to happen, and often it was empty space. And entertainment was this select moment that felt like a ritual, not because we made it a ritual, just because that's what things feel like when you're not constantly overstimulated. And my night sacred evening routine back then, I would make myself, well, not me, my mom would make me a tea. And she would often make me like grapes or a snack. And I would just cuddle up in bed with my cozy light and read my comic books or get lost in a fantasy book. And it felt so special to have this like safe space to retreat. And I think that now that we have the phones entangled in our day to day, they can, in a way, constantly make us feel connected. And because of that, we don't have our safe space to retreat anymore. We don't have our safe space to pull away from the world, right? Because you'll set yourself up in a moody afternoon or a moody evening or try to cook and then check your phone and then check your phone and then check your phone. And I think that's why, to me, unhooking from technology is a huge thing I've been actively working on in my life, to no longer feel entertained by scrolling or to no longer feel the pull to check my phone and to really maintain boundaries on how often I'm engaging with the world, right? Letting people in my living room, in my bedroom, in my kitchen. And that's for another video. But today, what I want to bring in is all the ways in which I'm intentionally having a low dopamine summer, because for the next 5 months, I'm having an incredible opportunity here where not only do I choose to record YouTube videos like this every day, which we're on day 5 of 151 days, which I'm so excited about. But the reason this came up is because my fiance, which have been spending 10 years day after day with him every single day, every minute, we run the business together, we live together, he's my best friend, like we just hang out together all the time. And it's high dopamine to be with the love of your life every day. In a way, we go on adventure on the island, we cruise, we go swim, we go to the restaurant. We have business meetings with incredible views. Like it's just so, I look at my camera roll and I'm like, wow, it's incredible that the life I used to dream of 10 years ago, when I was wondering, how do you even, work online, and how are you even free to just do what you want when you want? It's now my life. And it's such a blessing and such a privilege and so beautiful in so many ways. And now having him away for her yoga training, where he's devoting himself to the practice of hatha yoga for hours and hours every single day, I felt inspired to do, okay, let me just record YouTube every day and see kind of what comes up from this. But also meeting myself in the emptiness of being alone again as a 30-something woman that basically lived with her partner for the entirety of her 20s and early 30s, and now meeting myself in a mountain village on an island where there's not much going on. And I really, in a way, feel retired from the hustle of, society. And it's very low dopamine unless we go on adventures and we're in our relationship bubble. So just sitting at home alone, realizing, wow, there's really not much going on. I'm in that emptiness, asking myself, what do I want to do with this portal of 151 days? And for me, it is a journey to deepening my relationship to my feminine energy, to my authority in how I want to lead my business, and trust my decision and trust myself. And now truly realizing, because I've arrived on so many levels at the life I've always dreamed of, now it's really about letting this be integrated and settling. And I actually had a vision the other day, which now I'm reminded of, to make a video about why settling is good. I know, controversial, because I would be someone that used to say, I will never settle. And now I see things so differently. So I'll make another video about this too. But in a way, settling in a routine that is supportive of this season of my life. And think about how taste is so exciting when you haven't tasted things for a while, right? If you've ever done a fast, water fast, juice fast, or if you've ever been in any way kind of deprived of something, maybe you went hiking and you didn't have a hot shower, or you did a challenge and you only ate certain food or no sugar or something, right? When we deprive ourselves of certain things that are high dopamine, whenever we taste it again, we're like, whoa, right? And when we are constantly swimming in dopamine, we get numb to it. And that's why I think, when we call these things like brain rotting or doom scrolling, you're kind of swimming in a sea of dopamine and stimulation. And that can, and I'm using scrolling here, but it could be, partying or constantly eating out, constantly being with friends, constantly watching stuff, watching movies or listening to music, like being constantly swimming in input and information and in texture and sounds and smells and tastes. Eventually, it doesn't taste like anything anymore. And that's why, remember when you were a kid and you were sick and you were like, I'm excited, I can watch movies. But then eventually you were like, I don't want to watch movies anymore. I want to go play outside. If I tell you to watch movies and you've been exhausted, you had a big week in your business, like you're tired, you'll be like, that sounds so fun. But if I'm telling you, you have to sit through 12 hours of movies a day for 7 days, by the end of it, you'll beg me to let you out. You'll be like, no, 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 I am not watching another movie. You've maxed out, right? You've maxed out dopamine or stimulus. And that's why now when I'm saying maxing out boredom, is I think it's an underrated, incredible asset we have that we're not using enough. Like we're not using our boredom enough. We're not maxing out our boredom enough so that we let our natural creative fire ignite again. Because when we are even creators and using a lot of the external world to create, some musicians feel so inspired when they listen to music, or some creators feel inspired to create videos when they see other creator creating videos. It's always slightly distorted. It's always slightly from someone else. And when you're connecting back to boredom, all of a sudden, the fact that everything around you becomes less intense, less colorful, less tasteful, there is a sweet pocket of opportunity that eventually brings you up a natural surge of excitement, a natural curiosity, a natural quest that then sends you on. Maybe let's go get an ice cream, or I just had a vision to create this piece of content. And that's why I am one to believe that the blank page syndrome of an artist, or like being out of content ideas, like I don't believe those things to exist. I just believe it's because we're not currently creating the condition for creativity to pour in. But creative channel and creative source is always available, constantly available. And the reason I could talk to you now for the next 4 hours, and I could do this every single day for an entire year without running out of topic, is because I've created the conditions in my inner landscape and my outer world to be always able to tap in my creativity. And the first ingredient to this is lowering the amount of entertainment, consumption, and engagement with society that you do. And I'm saying consumption also on a level of food, shopping, cities, people, news, data, whatever is consumed, right, taken. We want to bring back a sense of neutrality. I think I said it in my other video as well, but we were watching Avatar and they brought in this concept of neutral jing, which is basically waiting until there's an impulse to move. And that neutrality, that boredom, that settled space of I'm just being present as a human being today is the most potent space there is. And for me, my low dopamine summer looks like intentionally doing the dishes slowly without distraction, intentionally cooking my meals at home and not eating out, intentionally watching old movies that are not fast paced, that are not cut and edited for small attention spans, but that are actually really panning out slowly. The stories are evolving slowly. Not much is happening, not much is going on. And it's actually giving you space to digest what it is. Reading books that I've already read. I'm rereading the books I've already read that are in my library. I'm not buying any new books because I just want to read slowly and not have this, you know, when you have the feeling that you need to read the next page and you're so excited and you're so hooked on this story. I don't want to be hooked on anything this summer. So I'm not hooking on new books that will take me through the night reading about the kingdoms of the dragons until 4 a.m. So, yeah, I'm basically actively seeking less in everything. I'm in my food that I'm eating and the things that I'm consuming, but also giving so much space to my day to have empty space and leading my business project by project. So now what I'm doing, instead of even having kind of a running continuous to-do list, I have some projects that I've named and called a title. And I'm waiting for the drive and the impulse to just do the project. And it's a day project and it's the one thing that I do and I let it be. I'm not seeking growth right now. I'm not actively pursuing. I'm just actively holding myself in neutrality, in this empty void space. And it's so beautiful to witness how much my mind clears up by not being so hooked on, right? And of course, that also implies not scrolling, not actively looking, and really just being in a space of I'm here, and being here is enough, and being here is all there is, and it's plenty. And I can devote to the things that I do slowly, but I'm not hooked on a need for excitement or activities or social energy. It's a very introspective space to be in, but it's giving me so much perspective about all the subtle ways in which I've been accidentally rushing out of my own design. Because my whole life is completely made up by me right now. The amount of clients that I take on in my business advisory, the amount of hours I play the guitar, the amount of, funnels I'm running in my business, content I'm creating, like it's all made up by me. And knowing it's made up, I'm now actively pursuing how everything feels to do, to experience, to create, and really actively trying to remove any sort of rush energy, any sort of hijacked anxiety, and not seeking growth. And it's so funny because gardening is not something that I do yet so much. I just have a couple flowers and beautiful green leaves in my tiny garden. But in the future, I do see myself having a garden, and gardening is one of the main analogy I use whenever I teach business. Well, I have two. I have gardening and coffee shops. I don't know why, but these two always make the best analogy for me when I'm teaching sales or marketing or branding principles to my client. But gardening itself is such a beautiful like expression of how business and brands are meant to grow, right? You plant a seed, which means there's choice, there's discernment, there's choosing the seed. You plant them in a conducive environment, right? But then you let it grow. You don't have to make it grow. You let it grow. And I do think for so many years in business, I tried to make it grow. I tried to say to the flower, grow faster, grow faster. And now I let it grow. And I water every day. Just showing up on YouTube is one way of watering. Working on my funnels and my projects is one way of watering. But then I don't look at it anymore. I just let it grow. And I think that's the beautiful part of having boredom. It allows you to sort in your mind what actually matters and what actually doesn't. What actually is important and significant in this chapter of your business and what actually isn't. What is currently in alignment with the energy cycle you're in, and what is a past desire that is no longer suiting the type of person you are today. Because business and our own energy always move in seasons. And I look back at my last 3 months and it was so high in excitement and joy. And now I could keep going to, the restaurant and to the beach and having all of these experiences and these adventures. But I'm feeling the call internally to just, in a way, retreat with myself, with my creativity, and work on all of the areas within of resistance that I've not noticed were still present, right? With my songwriting and the guitar process, with just letting the empty space in the day be empty and actively just laying in my hammock, laying on the sofa, looking at the ceiling, waiting, being in that waiting space, but not an impatient waiting. I'm not waiting for something. I'm just being. And because there's going to be something eventually, we could call it waiting, but it's not impatience. And I think that lesson of, can we be here now? Can you be proud of where you are now in your business? Can you trust that it is running, it is growing? The right people are finding their way to you. Your own expression in this world, your own creativity, your own giving doesn't have to cost you. It gets to be truly from a place of flow, from a place of inner sovereignty where you just know yourself and you know what you're good at and you know what you're here to create. And you find beautiful, delightful ways to create, but it's not from force. It's not from pushing. It's not from gaining or getting. And so my low dopamine summer is an active reconnection to almost my teenage years and my early childhood before I had a phone, basically. Before I had a phone in my hand. Landline. I'm just calling people. I'm talking to my beloved on the phone, hearing the phone ring and just picking up. I'm calling people, having conversation on the phone. I'm actively looking away from the screen. And I'm actively telling myself also, because I think the practice of unhooking is actively choosing why we do this and putting it away. You need to recondition yourself to be okay in silence, in emptiness. You need to learn how to trust your own impulse again, your own inner voice of wisdom that comes through telling you, this is not feeling good, this is feeling good. And of course, through this, I'm not using any sort of external guidance. I'm not asking the internet what to think. I'm sitting with myself, asking myself questions, and actively not seeking. And that's when we find always answers, when we stop seeking with impatience. Because I think that the curiosity, seeking is a beautiful, beautiful energy. But it's often layered with this impatience, this need. And when we say, you know what, I don't need anything, I have the sun, I have my sofa, I have food in the fridge, I have a business that I love, I can just be here. Being here is enough. Growth does not have to be rushed. And for me, that's an active return to my own my own current desire, my own landscape right now, my own inner world. Desires and dreams are always evolving, and I think sometimes when we're so caught up getting them, we lose sight of why we are even going after them. And moving back to what if everything here and now is enough allows us to actually re-actualize what is it that I truly want here and now. And often the quest is a quest of giving and expression, a quest of purpose, more than it is a quest of getting. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear if you're joining my low dopamine summer. I'm actively removing any sort of hook on inputs or information that are still present or patterns. And now I'm really just romanticizing the little things. I'm just enjoying myself, I'm into soul music lately. I don't know why. Cooking, looking out the window, and enjoying my client calls, and then enjoying the silence, the in between. And whenever I notice that force energy, I step away. So, yeah, love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to comment below what your thoughts are on a low dopamine summer. And ultimately, there is no right way to creativity. But I do believe that boredom and emptiness is a really powerful way that works so, so, so beautifully well. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. And let's keep this conversation going. Feel free to slide in my DMs. Feel free to join me on my upcoming live event. And I'll talk to you super soon. Bye.